If you're just starting out to play the guitar, the first thing you're going to need to do is choose your instrument. You may have already purchased or had a guitar given to you, but let's get familiar with the types of guitars that are out there. Guitars come in three major varieties. The first would be the classical guitar. A classical guitar will have nylon plastic strings that tie at the bridge. It has a much wider neck to play, and the fingerboard is very flat this way. These guitars are almost a completely different instrument, though closely related, to the electric and the acoustic guitar. The approach and technique used by classical guitar players is quite a bit different than most country, electric jazz, rock, or metal players. I don't really recommend a classical guitar unless classical guitar is the style of music you desire to play. The wide neck is often very difficult to learn on. The nylon strings, if you play with a pick, have a tendency to break. If you desire to play non-classical music, but this is the only type of guitar you have available to you, that's fine. You will be able to start with this type of guitar to learn to play. But at some point you will want to upgrade to the style of instrument that you desire to play. The second type of guitar would be the acoustic guitar. It looks very similar to the classical, but it has steel strings and a much narrower neck. The advantage of starting out with an acoustic guitar is normally you can purchase one less than what an electric guitar plus an amplifier would cost of the same quality. The disadvantages are the strings are a little bit thicker and a little higher off the fingerboard than a typical electric. So it may take you a little more time to start, to build up enough dexterity in your fingers and to build up calluses to be able to play. But the difference should only be minimal. If acoustic music is the style of music you would like to play, by all means start with an acoustic guitar. The third type of guitar is an electric guitar. Electric guitars come in a wide array of shapes, hardware, color, and types of electronics. Electric guitars typically have a narrower neck and thinner strings that are closer to the fingerboard. They offer a wide array of tonal options, and they are used extensively in many different styles of music, making them a good choice for beginners. But with the wide variety can make choosing one for a beginner a little more difficult. Avoid wild-shaped guitars like Flying V's or Explorers. Also avoid 12-string guitars. And you'll also find guitars with up to 8 strings, even some with 9 strings as extended range guitars. These guitars all have special purposes, but they're not good for a beginner to learn on. There are also mini guitars. These have a shorter scale. Avoid these unless you are a very young beginner or have very small hands and arms. I recommend starting out with a Strat style guitar. These are very comfortable to play seated, normally fairly lightweight, and they are very versatile in the styles of music you can play on them. As a rule of thumb, if you lean more towards blues, country, get a version with 3 single coil pickups. If you lean more towards hard rock, metal, or heavier music, get a guitar with at least 1 humbucking pickup, one with 2 coils that are close together. No matter what version of the guitar you decide to start with, the guitar needs to have a good level of tuning stability. It should have trueness of the notes played up the fingerboard, also called intonation, and have an action that is easy to play. That's the distance from the strings off the fingerboard. It needs to have these three things to be playable by a new player. There are plenty of good guitar manufacturers that make guitars ranging from $150 to $400 for your first guitar. Two brands I recommend for beginners are Squier guitars and the Squier Strat, and also Ibanez guitars, and they make different versions of a Strat shaped body. There are plenty of other good manufacturers, so you're not limited to just these two. I have just seen personally over the years of playing and teaching that these two brands give a very consistent product, having good stability and having good action and having good trueness up the fingerboard. I would avoid any toy store or department store guitars. You may get lucky, but many of these guitars that I have played have been in need of a good setup or had structural issues, making them unusable for a beginner. As we begin our lessons, it's important for you to know the anatomy of your instrument. At the end of the guitar, we have the headstock. On the headstock, we have tuning keys to tune our instrument. We'll turn one direction to make the pitch higher, one direction to make the pitch lower. Then we will have the nut. This is where the scale length begins and the string notes start. Then we have the fingerboard, or sometimes called the fretboard. Each of the markers on the fingerboard are called frets. If you're playing an electric guitar, you will have pickups. These are the microphones that pick up the signal from the guitar so it can be electrified. Most guitars will have either 1 to 3 pickups on the guitar. You'll have a pickup selector switch that will allow you to choose which pickup that you'll be playing. You'll also normally have at least a volume knob and sometimes also a tone knob or multiple tone knobs. Then you'll have the bridge. This is where the scale length will end for the guitar. Many guitars will have strap buttons, so you'll be able to hang your guitar if you're standing. The last thing we'll need to cover is the concept of up and down. Most new players, when they are told to move up the fretboard, they move away from themselves, and to move down, they move closer to themselves. When we discuss up and down, it is in reference to the pitch of the notes on the guitars and not the direction away from the center of the earth. The notes moving closer to the bridge is ascending or moving up, and moving away from the bridge is descending or moving down.